In the hearts of a bustling city lived the Donald family. They were one of the wealthiest families around. Mr. Ben Donald was a businessman, highly respected for his success in the corporate world. His wife, Chima, was equally successful, a top executive at a multinational company who loved her job more than anything else. Their daughter, Tasha, was a quiet and shy 10-year-old girl, a child born into wealth, but starved of attention. Their large home was a symbol of their affluence, a mansion with shiny marble floors, sparkling chandeliers, and high walls that shielded them from the city's chaos. But inside the house, things were far from perfect. Tasha spent most of her days alone. Her mother, Chima, was often too caught up in her work to even remember to pick her up from school. On several occasions, the school had to call Mr. Ben, who would angrily rush to get her. Tasha had become used to waiting, her small hands gripping her school bag as she sat on the steps of the school gate, watching other children live with their parents. Tasha's father, Ben, was increasingly worried about his daughter. He loved her dearly and tried to spend time with her whenever he could, but his work demanded a lot from him. He often noticed how lonely Tasha seemed, her once bright eyes now dull with neglect. She rarely smiled anymore, and her room had become her world, filled with toys that she no longer played with. Every evening, Ben would sit in his office thinking about the kind of childhood his daughter was having. It troubled him deeply. One evening, after a long day at work, Ben decided to talk to his wife. Chima had just come back from office, tired and barely paying attention to anything else but her phone. She sat on the sofa in their living room, scrolling through her emails. "Chima, we need to talk," Ben said, his voice serious. "About what?" she replied without looking up from her screen. "It's about Tasha. She's not getting the attention she needs from us. I'm worried about her," Ben explained, trying to keep his voice calm. Chima sighed and set her phone down, looking at her husband. "Ben, I'm doing my best. I can't quit my job. You know how important it is to me." "I'm not saying you should quit," Ben said, although deep down, that was exactly what he wanted. "But we need to do something. She's all alone all the time, and it's affecting her. I can see it." "Then what do you suggest?" Chima asked, already sounding defensive. "I've been thinking, maybe you could cut back on your hours. Or better yet, we could open a boutique or a supermarket for you. That way you could manage it while still having time for Tasha." Chima's eyes flashed with irritation. "Quit my job? Open a boutique? Ben, I didn't work all these years to become an executive just to throw it away for some small business. I love my job, and I'm not giving it up." Ben's shoulders slumped. He had expected this reaction, but it still hurt to hear it. "It's not just about your job, Chima. It's about our daughter." Chima stood up, her voice rising. "I'm not quitting. If you can't understand that, then maybe we have bigger problems than Tasha being a little lonely. We can hire a nanny if it's such a big deal." Ben shook his head firmly. "No nanny. I don't want a stranger raising our child." "Well, I'm not quitting, Ben. And if you keep pushing this, then maybe we should think about other options." Chima said coldly, "Maybe we should get a divorce if you can't accept who I am." Ben was taken aback by his words. "Divorce? Was she serious?" He stared at her, unable to find the words to respond. For days after the argument, the tension in the house grew thicker. They barely spoke, and when they did, it was about work or mundane things that didn't really matter. Chima continued to spend long hours at the office, while Ben tried his best to be there for Tasha. But even he couldn't fill the void her mother's absence left. A few weeks later, Chima discovered that she was pregnant. She had been feeling nauseous for days, and when the test confirmed it, she was shocked. When she told Ben, his face lit up with joy. He hugged her tightly, a rare moment of affection between them. "This is wonderful, Chima. A new baby. Maybe this is what we need to bring us closer again," Ben said, full of hope. Chima smiled, but it was forced. In the back of her mind, she knew what was coming next, and she was right. Ben brought up the idea of her quitting her job again, now more than ever, since she was pregnant. He thought it was the perfect time for her to focus on the family, but Chima, as expected, refused. She had worked too hard to get where she was, and she wasn't going to let anything, not even a baby, get in the way. "Ben, I'm pregnant, not dying. I can handle this and still work. I won't quit. Not now, not ever," she says sternly. Their fights become more frequent, with Chima threatening divorce each time Ben suggested she slow down. Finally, to keep the peace, Ben gave in and reluctantly agreed to hire a nanny. It wasn't what he wanted, but he couldn't fight anymore. He had to protect his marriage, especially now that they had another child on the way. Soon, they put up a sign outside their gates, "Nanny needed." A few days later, a young girl named Miss Clara came to apply for the job. She seemed polite, calm, and eager to work. Chima liked her instantly and hired her on the spot. Ben, however, felt uneasy around Clara from the very beginning. There was something about her that he couldn't put his finger on, but he brushed it aside for Chima's sake. After all, they needed help. Clara, however, had her own agenda. Beneath her calm exterior, she harbored a dark secret. She wasn't just any nanny. Clara had worked in several wealthy families before, each time leaving a trail of destruction behind her. She had sworn to make the rich pay for the pain and suffering she had endured as a child. Now, the Donalds were her new target. The next day, Chima and Ben left for work and instructed Miss Clara to take care of Tasha and make sure to feed her properly. Miss Clara nodded with a warm smile, but as soon as they left, her smile was gone. She treated Tasha with indifference, bordering on cruelty. The poor girl was just crying. She went to the kitchen and brought out the lavish meal Chima prepared before going to work. She started eating it in front of Tasha, enjoying the meal. "Wow, this is so good. Your mother can cook," she said, enjoying the delicious food. Without giving Tasha a taste, she dished another plate of food and continued eating, making the poor girl watch her eat while her stomach rolled in hunger. "If you tell your parents, I'll beat you to a pulp," Clara threatened, her eyes cold and menacing. Tasha, terrified and already feeling abandoned by her parents, stayed silent. She would cry herself to sleep. Ben was the first to come home. He asked how Tasha was. "She's very fine, sir. She slept after eating." Ben was happy that finally his daughter is getting the care and attention she needed. The next morning, Chima was already running late for work. She told Clara to help her dress Tasha for school. It was a Monday morning, and she doesn't want to be late for work. Tasha grew scared on seeing Clara. She refused Clara dressing her up for school and hid behind Chima's back. She turned to her daughter. "Tasha, what is wrong with you? I'm sorry I can't dress you up for school today. Auntie Clara will dress you up today, okay?" But still, Tasha refused. Chima looked up to Clara. "What is wrong with her? Why doesn't she want you to dress her up?" Chima asked, looking startled. "Maybe she's just used to you dressing her up, ma," Clara said, looking at Tasha in anger. Chima managed to calm and convince her daughter before she left for work. Immediately she left, Clara rained terror on Tasha. "What was the drama about? You wanted to tell your mother about me, right? You are gone for," Clara shouted. Tasha started screaming, and this made Clara very angry. That morning, Clara ate most of the food and left scraps for Tasha to eat. Meanwhile, Clara continued her work, smiling sweetly in front of Chima and Ben, pretending to be the perfect nanny. But behind closed doors, she was slowly breaking down her family. Clara continued to eat most, if not all, the food, leaving little or none for little Tasha. As the days passed, food started disappearing from the house and things began to go missing. Chima noticed, but when she complained to Ben, he brushed it off. "You are the woman of the house, Chima. Deal with it," he said, his mind occupied with work and the pressure of his business. Clara continued her reign of terror, manipulating the family at every turn. Clara's revenge didn't stop at Tasha. She had bigger plans. She began to target Ben, sensing his dislike for her. Clara had a boyfriend named Ade, who supported her cause of revenge. She always brought food for him in secret and some money. She told him that her boss, Mr. Ben, didn't like her much, so together they made a plan to seduce him and trap him in a scandal and extort money from him. One night, Clara cornered Ben in the kitchen, her eyes full of feigned vulnerability. She talked to him about her struggles, how difficult life had been for her. Ben, already under immense stress, let his guard down, and before he knew it, he had fallen into Clara's trap. They slept together that night. A mistake Ben regretted the moment it happened, but it was too late. Clara had him exactly where she wanted him. Clara's plan was working. She continued to stab Tasha, making her weaker by the day. Tasha's school performance dropped drastically, but neither parent noticed. They were too caught up in their work and personal problems. A few weeks later, she approached Ben with a sinister smile. "I'm pregnant." "What?" Ben's face turned pale. "You heard me. And if you want me to get rid of it, you need to pay me 10 million. Ben's heart pounded in his chest. "I don't have that kind of money, Clara. You'll find a way. If not, I'll tell your wife everything." Terrified of losing his family, Ben reluctantly agreed. He transferred the money to Clara, hoping it would end there. Clara wasted no time celebrating with Ade. She came up with the idea of them buying a house for themselves to move into and start a new life. Ade thought it to be a nice idea, but he suggested they build a house instead. But they will have to extort some more money from Ben, as the 10 million won't be enough. Clara disagreed at first, but after Ade explained everything to her, she understood and agreed to ask for more money. "Soon, we will have enough to build our own house," Ade said, grimacing as they toasted to their ill-gotten fortune. Clara gave all the money to Ade. Clara went back to him again, demanding more money. This time, Ben was starting to feel the pressure. His business was struggling and Clara's constant demands were draining him, but he had no choice. To protect his secrets, he transferred another 10 million. The tension in the house continued to build. Clara became more brazen, talking back to Chima and acting as though she owned the place. Chima was baffled by the change in her behavior, but when she complained to Ben, he brushed it off, saying he would handle it, but he never did. Then one day, everything came crashing down as Ben and Clara were arguing about more money. "I don't have any more money, Clara. My business is failing. I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice breaking. Chima overheard them. She stood frozen at the door, listening to every word, unable to believe what she was hearing. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What is going on here?" she demanded. Just as the confrontation escalated, Tasha's teacher arrived unexpectedly. She had come to discuss Tasha's sport performance at school. "Mr. and Mrs. Donald, I'm so sorry I came unexpected, but I am concerned about Tasha. Tasha hasn't been attending classes regularly, and when she does, she's not performing well. She doesn't bring lunch to school, and she's missed several exams," the teacher said. Both parents were shocked. They hadn't noticed anything wrong with their daughter, and the guilt hit them hard. Chima turned to Clara, her face a mix of anger and disbelief. "What have you been doing to my daughter?" Clara, cornered and unable to hide any longer, tried to defend herself. But it was too late. Ben and Chima scolded her furiously and called her names. Chima turned to Clara again, fury and betrayal coursing through her veins. "You are fired." She spat, her voice trembling. "Get out of my house." Clara smirked as she packed her things, but her victory was short-lived. Tasha, overwhelmed by the stress and neglect, fainted in the middle of the chaos. Ben rushed to her side, his heart breaking as he realized how much he had failed her. Chima, who was pregnant and distraught, stood frozen in disbelief. The betrayal was too much to bear. Chima finally snapped out of her daze, rushing over to Tasha, her face pale with concern. Tasha, please wake up," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. She had been so focused on her career that she hadn't noticed the struggles her own daughter was facing. Guilt flooded her chest, and for the first time, she truly regretted how much time she had spent away from her family. They hurried Tasha to the hospital, where the doctor assured them that she was just exhausted and dehydrated, but she would be fine. As they sat in a sterile white room, waiting for Tasha to wake up, the silence between Ben and Chima grew louder, filled with unspoken anger, regret and shame. "You lied to me, Ben," Chima finally whispered, her voice shaking. "All this time, you have been sneaking around with Clara. You ruined our family. For what? For her?" Ben ran his hands through his hair, unable to meet her eyes. He didn't have an answer. The weight of his mistake felt like a heavy chain pulling him down. "I've made a mistake, Chima. A terrible mistake." "A mistake? You slept with her. You let her into our lives, our home. And now, look at where we are. Our daughter, Ben, how could you?" Chima's voice broke, and she wiped her tears angrily. "You betrayed us both." Ben opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. How could he explain something that was unforgivable? The regret in his heart was overwhelming, but he knew no amount of apologies could erase what he had done. Meanwhile, Clara went to her day, hoping to escape with the money they had extorted from Ben. However, things didn't go as she had planned. Ade, who had grown greedy and tired of Clara, had other ideas. He had taken all the money and disappeared, leaving Clara stranded with nothing. She was devastated, realizing that she had been played the same way she had manipulated others. Desperate, Clara tried calling Ade multiple times, but his number wasn't connecting. Broken and defeated, Clara turned to her only remaining friend, Uju, for help. "I warned you, Clara," Uju said softly. "I told you that Ade wasn't good for you. Look where your revenge has led you." Clara, desperate and enraged, wasn't ready to give up her quest for vengeance on rich families. Uju warned her against it. She told her to let go of her revenge and focus on being better. Clara bluntly refused. She narrated everything about her childhood to her. She was only 15 years old when her mother died. She had no one, so a woman in her village took her to a rich family to work as a maid. She was maltreated so much. She wasn't given any food. She would watch in hunger as the children of her boss feed. At the end, she was thrown out of the house for theft. Although she did nothing, deserted, she wandered the streets where her bags were stolen. She was left with nothing. She later worked in another rich family where she was also maltreated and thrown out in the end. This has been her life until she grew up. She swore to work as a nanny in rich families to exact her revenge for what she went through in her childhood. Uju sympathized with her and told her to do better. But Clara wouldn't listen. She decided to take things further, to steal a child and sell it, thinking it would be her way to start over. She had ruined families, hurt children, stolen money, and for what? A man who had abandoned her without a second thought. She was filled with rage and bitterness. She made plans to kidnap a rich family's baby and sell it. It was dangerous, but she didn't care anymore. She had nothing left to lose. As Clara set her twisted plans in motion, Uju, her friend, grew more and more concerned. She had warned Clara repeatedly to leave her path of revenge, but Clara hadn't listened. Desperate to stop her friend from ruining her life further, Uju decided to call the police. On the day Clara was supposed to carry out her plan, she waited in the uncompleted building, clutching the stolen child in her arms. But instead of the buyer arriving, the police stormed in, guns raised. Clara's eyes widened in shock as they surrounded her. "What is this? Who called you?" she screamed, looking around in confusion. From the shadows, Uju stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "I did, Clara. I'm sorry. I had to stop you before you destroyed yourself completely. You called the police on me? I did it because I care about you, Clara. I couldn't let you destroy your life any more than you already have." Clara glared at her, hatred boiling in her heart. "You have betrayed me, Uju. How could you? After everything, you were supposed to be my friend." Uju shook her head, her voice trembling. "I love you, Clara. I couldn't watch you ruin yourself any longer. This isn't you. It is the pain and bitterness controlling you. You need help. You need to heal." Clara's fury was overwhelming. She lunged at Uju, but the police held her back, slapping cuffs on her wrist. "You ruined everything," Clara screamed, her eyes wide with anger. "I trusted you." Uju wept silently as Clara was dragged away by the police. "I'm sorry, Clara. I hope one day you can forgive me. You will serve some years in jail, but I promise you will come back stronger." Clara was taken to prison, where she would serve time for her crimes. Her years of revenge had caught up with her, and now she had nothing left but regrets. Back at the Donut's house, things slowly began to change. Ben and Chima made a conscious effort to be more present in Tasha's life, repairing the damage that had been done. They enrolled Tasha in therapy to help her process everything, and over time, her grades improved and she slowly began to heal. Ben's business, though still struggling, started to stabilize. He had learned a painful lesson, one he would never forget. As for Chima, she finally realized that her career, though important, could never replace the love and care her family needed. She made the decision to take a break from work, focusing on rebuilding the bond with her daughter and her husband. Their family wasn't perfect, but they were working on it, slowly but surely. They were healing from the chaos Clara had brought into their lives. And though Clara sat behind bars, still bitter and angry at the world, there was a small part of her that wondered if Uju had been right all along. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for her to change. Thank you for watching, guys. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and share to your loved ones. And please, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of our new story. And also, share your thoughts on the comment section. Thank you and God bless. Bye.